Welcome to Making Memoir Magic, the podcast where we unlock the power of your story and guide you through the magical process of turning life experiences into memoirs that inspire and impact. I'm your host, Carrie Kreisman, a memoir mentor and storytelling champion, and I'm here to help you find the courage to embrace your unique story and share it with the world. Whether you're just starting out or refining your final draft, this is the place to be for practical tips, inspiration, and the encouragement you need to write the memoir only you can tell. Ready to make some magic? Let's dive in. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Making Memoir Magic podcast, where we discover that your life isn't just a collection of memories. It's a story waiting to be understood. I'm Carrie Kreisman, author of the memoir Accidental First Lady, and I'm a memoir instructor and someone who has the privilege of helping aspiring authors find the stories they've been carrying, sometimes for decades. So today, I want to talk about the dog days of summer. Now, I know you've heard that expression. It's August. It's hot in most of the United States and certainly around the world if you're listening from outside the U.S. So it's the dog days of summer, we call it. But today we're going to talk about an actual dog. And as you listen, you will understand how this story I'm going to tell relates to memoir, which is why you're listening in the first place, right? Now, if you can see, and you're watching me on YouTube, you can see the star of the show. That's Betty. So she's who we're going to talk about a little bit today. But maybe we're going to talk about 3 dogs. All right. So you don't know where this story's going yet. But what I'm really going to talk about is something much bigger. Okay. And that is why the stories from our lives can change even when the facts don't. Because one of the most interesting things about memoir is this: the story that you would have written 10 years ago may not be the story you're ready to write today. And that's not because your memory is necessarily wrong. It's because you've changed. So what is strange about August? Okay, it's back to school, but there's a lot of summer left. That's certainly true for families with school-age children. You see the school supply commercials everywhere. Social media posts have those back-to-school photos in Florida, where I am, in the Tampa Bay area. It was back-to-school day for many students today. So that's what I'm seeing all around, even if my kids are grown. Alarm clocks are being reset. It's just a change. If not yet a change in seasons, it is a change in calendar seasons, but it's a change in seasons. So, but when you live in Florida, summer isn't going anywhere. All right. If anything, summer says to us, I'm not finished yet. Nope. I'm just getting started. We'll be lucky, honestly, if we get cool weather, like open the windows kind of weather in November. All right. And I always celebrate 70 degrees or below during the day with a pot of chili. So I know that's usually reserved for cold days, but I celebrate like that because it's just that little bit of relief that we get. So yes, we're in the dog days of summer. The expression actually dates back thousands of years ago, and it refers to Sirius, the dog star, which ancient observers associated with the hottest days of the year. But this year, the dog days of summer have taken on a very literal meaning at our house because Betty came home. There she is. Betty is the 16th guide dog puppy that we raised for Dogs, Inc. And that's a nonprofit located here in Palmetto, Florida, just a little bit south of where I live. But puppy raisers for Dogs, Inc. live throughout the United States. And we raise puppies to be guide or service dogs. So if you followed me for any length of time, then you know that has been part of my life for a long time. So you bring the puppies into your home, you teach them, you socialize them, you certainly love them, you take them to places. And from almost the first day, you know something else. You know from the beginning that you're going to have to let them go. That's part of the bargain. It's what you sign up for. And I think anyone who's ever loved someone or something while knowing the relationship has an expiration date understands how complicated that can be. So you don't love less because you know that the goodbye is coming. If anything, maybe you love more. You make those moments count even more. So we raised Betty. We loved Betty, and she did really great in guide dog school. She made it 3/4 of the way. But in her own way, and in the only way that dogs can communicate with the trainers, she told her trainer, not verbally, obviously, but with signs and cues and body temperament and reactions, that she did not want to be a guide dog. And you know what? That's okay. I've changed my major 3 times in college, and it took me 6 years to get through college. So true story. All right. Um, you can change your mind about things. All right. And so eventually we said goodbye to Betty. And we thought we knew how the story ended. We were getting updates on her. We were so proud. I projected into the future the day we would meet the person that she was matched with. And that's okay. It's natural to do that. But you know what? It changed. We didn't know how the story ended. There is no one that she is going to be matched with that we will meet. Still, she's going to change a life. She's going to change our lives. She came home. She's ours now. We got to adopt her. And so officially, we are a 3-dog household. So we've had 2 dogs of our own for years, while always raising a third that would stay with us for about a year and then leave. So, it was never a fully 3-dog household. So Betty is now part of our family. And as I've thought about Betty coming home, I realized something. If I had written her story when we first said goodbye to her, it would have been a story about loving something enough to let it go. And that is a perfectly good story. In fact, I have written stories. I have a Substack account or platform, I guess, if you will, and maybe you follow me there. It's called Nothing is Accidental. And I have written a few stories about some of the guide dog puppies that we've raised. And it's true. That would have been a great story. There's lots of lessons there. There's different storytelling anecdotes I would have shared, but it's not the story that I would write today. Today, Betty's story makes me think about endings that aren't really endings. I think about family. I think about different seasons of our lives and about how time can completely change our understanding of something that happened to us. She's the same dog. We're the same family, but it's a different story. So this is something that I teach aspiring memoir writers all the time. We tend to begin with, here's what happened. All right. And of course, that is important. You need the events, but the events alone aren't memoir. Think about a major experience from your own life. So maybe you moved across the country or got married, got divorced, lost a job, changed careers, raised children, lost someone you loved, survived something you were sure you couldn't survive. Those are events. But the deeper story is usually found in a different question. And that question is, what did that experience mean? And here's where memoir can get particularly interesting. The answer can change. Doesn't mean that any of it is untrue. It just means that what something meant to you at age 25 may be completely different than what it means at age 55. At 25, maybe losing that job felt like humiliation. 30 years later, you can see that it pushed you toward work you would have never pursued otherwise. At 35, maybe you were furious with your mother about something she said or did. At 60, you may still disagree with her, but now you understand her in a way that you couldn't then because you have age and maybe the benefit of having been a parent yourself behind you. So maybe the opposite happened. Maybe something you accepted as perfectly normal when you were younger is something you now recognize very differently. So time doesn't automatically make everything better, and memoir isn't about forcing a happy ending onto an experience that didn't leave one. Perspective isn't the same thing as positivity. Perspective is understanding. It's being able to stand in the present, look backward, and say, I couldn't see this then, but I can see it now. That sentence can unlock an entire memoir. So when you're writing memoir, something fascinating happens. there are really two versions of you on the page. There's the person who lived the experience, and there's the person who's writing about it now. So those two people know different things. The younger you doesn't know what's going to happen next. She doesn't know whether the marriage will survive. She doesn't know whether she'll get the job. She doesn't know whether the diagnosis will change everything. She doesn't know whether the person she's saying goodbye to will ever come back. But the narrator, who is you, does know all of that. And one of the great skills of memoir writing is learning how to let both voices exist. You allow your younger self to be uncertain, scared, hopeful, angry, wrong, but you don't rush in from the future to correct her. Every so often, the wiser narrator steps onto the page and says, "Here's what I understand now." That's reflection. And reflection is one of the things that separates memoir from simply recording memories. So, and nowhere is this more important when we write about family, because family is complicated. Often, and that may not play into your memoir, but at some point, depending on what you're writing about and the time period you're writing about, it's going to come into play. And you as the author gets to decide how much it does, but if it does, you have to admit to yourself and just honor that feeling that we can love people who might drive us crazy. We can be deeply grateful for someone and still carry hurt from what they did. And we can look back on our parents differently once we've become parents ourselves. And we can forgive without pretending that something didn't happen. Sometimes we don't forgive. And sometimes the understanding we gain is simply the ability to hold two truths at one time. Like, I love this person and this person hurt me. I had a wonderful childhood and some things were difficult. My family gave me tremendous gifts and there were some things I had to unlearn. Both can be true. And that's where memoir becomes human. Not in perfect heroes or villains, but in the messy middle. So here's something that I want you to try. Think about one experience from your life. You don't need to choose your deepest trauma. And in fact, probably don't start there. Okay. Choose something manageable. This is just an exercise, and it may or may not be part of the memoir that you are writing or want to write. Maybe it's a friendship that ended, or you left a job, or you moved away from home, a relationship changed, you said goodbye to something or someone. And whatever your experience is, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what did I believe about this while I was living in it? Okay, don't correct yourself. Go back to that version of you. All right, and what did you think was happening? What did you want? What were you afraid of? What could you possibly not know yet? Then ask yourself, how did I understand this experience a few years later? Had anything changed? Had consequences appeared that you couldn't have predicted? Did you understand someone differently? Did you understand yourself differently? And finally, what does this experience mean to me today? That's the question I want you to sit with. What do you know now that you couldn't know then? What still hurts? What has softened? What makes more sense to you now? What makes less sense? And if you put these 3 versions beside one another, something interesting may happen. You may discover that your story isn't actually about the event you started with, but that there's another story underneath it. So, and I think this is one of the many reasons why so many people tell me that they want to write a memoir, but they don't know where to begin. They have plenty of material, usually too much. They have maybe 50, 60, or sometimes even 70 years of memories. They have family stories, photographs, journals, hard experiences, funny experiences, things they never want to forget. And they're staring at it all thinking, how on earth do I turn my entire life into a book? So here's the good news. You don't. Your entire life is called an autobiography if that's what you're writing. Your memoir is not your entire life. It's a story from your life that's shaped around meaning. And learning how to find that story, how to recognize the thread connecting your experiences is one of the most important things you can do before you start worrying about chapters, word counts, publishing, or any of the other things that can make writing a book feel overwhelming. You need clarity first. What story are you really telling? Why does it matter? What changed? And why should a reader come along with you to hear that story? So once you begin answering those questions, the blank page becomes much less intimidating. So maybe you've been thinking about writing your memoir for years. Maybe you've started and stopped. Maybe you have 30,000 words sitting somewhere and you're no longer sure what they're adding up to. Or maybe you're waiting because you think you need to be a, quote, real writer before you begin. You don't. But what you do need is a way forward. And that's exactly what I teach in Make Memoir Magic. My next live cohort of Make Memoir Magic begins in September. And over 4 weeks, I'm going to help aspiring authors like you move from I have all these stories to understand the story that you're trying to tell. So we'll work through finding the heart of your memoir, shaping your story, developing scenes and voice, creating momentum, and figuring out what comes next. So there are 16 lessons inside the course, along with resources and 4 weeks of live group coaching with me. Because sometimes you don't need another generic writing tip. You need someone who's walked the path that you have, an author like me. You need someone like that to help you look at what you've lived and ask the questions that reveal the story underneath it. So if you've been waiting for the perfect time to begin, I can't promise you that there is one because there probably isn't. Life is going to keep happening. Seasons are going to keep changing, and we're going to keep changing. And maybe now that's exactly why you should consider doing this now. This is actually the perfect time because you can get through the entire course and the group coaching before Halloween. All right. And you can get some writing done because I know I'm not going to pretend that the holidays don't come fast and furiously. And we don't always get big projects done or make headway on them during that time. Okay. And then sometimes in January, finding the momentum is hard. So September, and this is September 14th when it starts, I think is the sweet spot. All right. So take all that to mind, try the exercises, think about everything I said here and how it can relate to your memoir and help you start telling the story you're meant to tell. Because the one you want to tell today, it just may be the one that you couldn't have written 10 years ago. So before you go, I want to leave you with this. I want you to think about one story from your life that you believed was finished. For me, it's that little puppy who's not a puppy anymore, but it's Sweet Betty. That's just one, okay, that she's sitting behind me. But look at that story again, the one that's your story, and look at it again, not because the facts have changed, but because you have. And ask yourself, what do I understand now that I couldn't have understood then? And right from there. So Betty's story once ended with goodbye. And today, she's sleeping on this sofa right behind me with 2 other dogs nearby. You can't see it. Jake is over there under another desk, and Christy's down here on the floor on a dog bed next to me. So, with that 3-dog household, our life is full. My office is full. I love my coworkers. But just remember, life always gives us another page. And sometimes the new page isn't something that happened to us. It's simply the wisdom to look back and finally understand the pages that came before. So if you're ready to start finding the deeper story inside your own life, I'd love to welcome you into the September cohort of Make Memoir Magic. You'll find the link in the show notes. And until next time, keep living your stories and keep writing them and keep making memoir magic. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Making Memoir Magic. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step toward telling your unique story through memoir. Remember, your story matters and someone out there is waiting to read it. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show. You can also connect with me on my website at carriekreisman.com, on Instagram at carrie.kreisman, or join my Facebook group, Memoir Magic for Aspiring Authors. You'll get more tips and inspiration on your memoir journey. And each Wednesday, I host a Memoir Magic write-in where you get to join other writers to accomplish the often arduous task of getting words on the page. Until next time, keep writing, keep sharing, and keep making memoir magic.